What's up everybody, welcome back. So let's continue working on our Steam integration today, and I want to take a look at setting up the friends list, joining a friend and sending invites. There's one small problem. I kind of broke my development project that I used to develop things and show everything off. So I can't show you how it's going to look right now, but if you want to know how it's going to look, you can skip to the end of the video and take a look there. And since I can't really show anything, we might as well just jump in and start. There's one small note: if you want to become a member, you can become a member of the channel and also a Patreon, and then you will get access to premium channels in the Discord and also downloads for this project file. And I want to thank everybody that's supporting me already. That's a great help, so thanks for that. So let's dive into the friends list. So before we dive into the friends list, there's one small note I want to make about the offline profiles. So currently, if we start the game, it says it's going to load the online profiles as well, and they would be available offline, but they are not. And it's really easy to make them available offline. So let me quickly show you. If you go to the framework folder and then open up the GameInstance, in here we have the load profile function. And if we grab this branch at the end that we added in the previous video and actually don't use it, so we want to grab the false pin from this branch and just hook it up to the player profile info setter, compile and save. And if we go into the widgets and then open our player profile info widget, over here in the event graph we have a similar branch, so is Steam connected is false. If we skip this branch and just hook it up over here to the active slot branch, so this is not used anymore, then it will actually load the profiles if we are offline. So select save game, and now you can see all of the profiles are available. But there's one little downside to this. For instance, if my little brother is going to log in, he's going to be able to play on my profile. So you're not logged in, so there's no way to verify who's playing, and you can't use a password or anything like that. So that's kind of a thing you have to decide for yourself what you want to do. You can make them available offline, but then there's no way to verify who's playing, and otherwise you can only play offline profiles offline and online profiles online. Okay, so that's a little side note over there. I'm gonna leave it like this, so the description is actually accurate, and we can simply select all profiles if we are offline. If you don't want it, just leave in the branches we already had, and you should be good to go. So for the friends list, let me see, we're gonna do something similar like this. So we're gonna create a button widget that we can display all the friends info on, and then add that to another widget that's our actually friends list. So we need to create two new widgets, the button and the actual friends list widget. So let's start by doing that. We're in the widgets folder, and I'm going to create a new user interface widget blueprint and select the user widget over here. The first one is going to be the Steam friend button. So this is the actual button that we're going to add to the friends list later. So let's call this Steam friend button. And let's set it up first. So let me grab my notes in here. We want to start with a border. So simply drag it on here, and for this border we're gonna set the brush to be invisible. So if we go to the brush color, we're simply gonna set the alpha to 0, and then for the padding I want to make it equal all the way around, so later if we select this profile we can make the border background green so we know what profile we have selected and it looks a little bit better. So I'm simply gonna add 4 in here, and it will give a padding of 4 equally on the bottom, left, right, and top. So that's the border, and we want to make this a variable. This is the border background. Make sure you enable isVariable in the top right. So inside this border we're going to grab a button and drag it on here. So this is our button friend. So let's rename it first, button friend. And by renaming it, it enabled the isVariable, so make sure it is actually a variable. Then for this button, we want to do a little bit of setup. So we need to set up the style, obviously. So I have a style in the project. I'm simply gonna use that. So the button is going to be black. And then if it's normal, the alpha is 0.7. If it's hovered, then it's going to be 1. So all the way black and then alpha 1. And if it's pressed, it's also going to be black, but then the alpha is going to be 0.3. There we go. So that's just my default button style for the project. Inside of this button, we want to drop a horizontal box. So let's grab a horizontal box under the panel section and drop it inside of the button friend. So let's make sure that this horizontal box is actually filling up the entire button. So we're going to set it to fill horizontally and vertically. And that should be all for the horizontal box. So then inside there, we can grab an image and drop it on top of there. So the image is going to be the Steam avatar for the player. So let's rename it first, image avatar. So that'll make it a variable, that's good. And then we want to go to the vertical alignment and make sure the vertical alignment is set to center align. And for the image size over here under the brush section, we're going to set it to 100 by 100. And that should pretty much be good to go, I think. Yeah, that should be good. Then after this image, we're going to grab ourselves a vertical box and drop that on top of the horizontal box. So for this vertical box, let me check the alignment. That's going to be left over here. So horizontal alignment left and vertical alignment center. That's good. And then I'm going to add the padding over here, and I'm going to add padding 15 on the left side and then keep all of the other ones 0. So there's a little bit of space in between the image avatar and the vertical box. Oh damn it, I had the image selected, so that's not good. Let me reset this to 0. And then for the image, the alignment was good, so we want to go to the vertical box. I'm sorry. And for the vertical box, we're going to set the padding left to 15. And then the size should be auto, so that's good to go. And the horizontal alignment is left and the vertical alignment is center. There we go. Oh, I love this widget stuff. So inside of this vertical box, we need some text. So let's grab a text over here, drop it in the vertical box. This text is going to be the friend name. So let's give it a proper name, text friend name. And make sure we enable is variable over here. So let me grab the font from just another widget so I don't have to set it up. So I'm simply going to select one of the text in another widget and copy the font over here. And then paste it. So for the size, I'm going to set it to 20. That should be pretty much all. So after this text block, I'm going to grab a spacer. So that's under primitive. Yeah, under primitive, we can grab a spacer just to add a little bit of clear room under here. So I'm going to set the size of the spacer on the right side here to 15. That should be good. So why is it not actually increasing size? Oh, there we go. There was a bit of a delay, I don't know why. So after the spacer, we need another text variable. So let's just duplicate the text friend name and move it below the spacer. So this is going to be the text for the online status. I'm going to make this text a little bit smaller. So let's make it 16. And then we should be good to go over here. So we can change the text, but it doesn't really matter. We're just going to set it in the event graph on construct. So after we added the online status text, we only need one more, and that's for joining. So let's grab another text variable. Let's duplicate this one. But for this one, we're going to drag it outside of the vertical box and on top of the horizontal box. So it's actually outside here. And then let me check the alignments. So we want to set the alignment for this horizontally to the right and then vertically centered. And we should set the size to fill, so that will make it move to the right side of the button. And when we did that, we can set some color and opacity. Yeah, why not? So let's just make it a little bit green for now. So if we can join, the text is green, and otherwise it's going to be red or white, whatever you prefer. And the text size, well, let's size this up a little bit. So let's make this one 20 again. And then we should be pretty much good to go. So this is the button that we're going to use, and we need to set it up in the event graph. So let's go to graph. We need a few variables to work with, so let's do that first. And I forgot to name the text online status here, so let's go back to the designer because this is the text joinable. So let's change this one, text joinable. And now we're good to go. So now let's go to the graph. Like I mentioned, we need a few variables, so let's set those up first. The first one, we're going to need a reference to our widget friends list, but we haven't created that yet, so we can skip that one for now. The second thing we need is the actual friend info. Now, this is in a structure, so let's call this as friend info. And then we can change the type, and if we look for friend info, we have a blueprint friend info structure, so we're going to select that one. And we need to make sure this is instance editable and exposed on spawn. Then we also want an integer for the button index, so let's call this button index and change it into an integer. So let me double check. Yeah, that should also be exposed on spawn and instance editable. And then we need one boolean in here, and that's going to say if we can join it. So let's call this can join, and then turn it into a bool. And then we should be good to go. So we can get rid of reconstruct and tick. We're not going to use those, and we're simply going to do things when we construct the button. So we're going to grab our friend info. We had this set to instance editable, so this will be populated when we spawn the widget. And we can simply break the friend info over here. And first of all, let's set the friend name. So let's grab the text for the friend name and set the text. Plug it in here and simply grab the display name over here and plug it in. So that's the first one good to go. Then we want to grab the Steam avatar. So if we drag off the unique net ID from our friend, and then we can look for get avatar, get Steam friend avatar. So hook it up over here. And then for the size, I'm going to set it to medium. So it's already here, medium, that's good to go. And then we simply want to grab the upper pin, so when it's successfully loaded, we're going to continue and we're going to set our image avatar. So let's drag it in here and then set a brush from texture over here. Plug it into the on success pin and simply plug in the return value as the texture, and that should be good to go as well. So then we have the online status left. So let's drag in our text online status. And over here, we're going to set a text as well. Hook it up. And if we go to our friend info over here, we can drag off the online state. And we need to convert this into a string because we can't go from an enum to text directly. So first of all, we're going to grab the enum and then look for toString. And you want to grab the upper one, enum to string, and not the byte one. And if we have a string, we can plug it in over here and it'll convert the string to a text variable. So I want to change the color of the online status text depending on the online status. So let's grab the online status again. We're going to drag off and then switch on it. So we'll get the switch node. And we can simply tell what color we want the text to be for each status that we have. So we can grab the text online status, paste it over here, and then set the color and opacity. There we go. And if we drag off the color and opacity, we can make a slate color and then simply click the little box over here and select the color. So for the online, I'm going to make it green, and I would like that color to match with the green text I have over here for joinable. So if I right click over here and copy, I might be able to right click over here. That doesn't work. Okay, I'm not sure how to copy it over, so let's just grab the numbers. So we have red, and then green is 1. So let's go in here, red, paste it, green is 1, and then for, oh really? Paste it here, green is 1, press OK, go back, and then the blue, copy it, go back over here, and fill in blue. So we have our green color matching up. So we need the set text color and opacity again, and then plug it into the offline status. So for this one, I'm gonna make it red. The player is not online. Oh, really? So something like this. And then for the other ones, I'm gonna make it orange. So first of all, let's make sure we hook up a target over here, and then copy this again, paste it down here. And for the other ones, so away, extended away, etc., etc., just hook all of them up here. And I'm gonna make the text orange, so something like this. There we go. Again, make sure we hook up the target over here, otherwise it will start complaining if we compile this. So now the only thing left is the text joinable. So let's first grab a branch over here, and we're gonna hook up all 3 of the execution pins. Now we can grab the condition and move to the friends list info. And over here we have a bool is playing same game. So obviously we can hook that up. So if the friend is not playing the same game, then we can't join ever. So that's the first check we're gonna do. There's a little side note. If I drag over here on the presence info and break it, there is actually a boolean in here, is joinable, but that doesn't seem to work. So that might be because of the developer app ID, so the Space Wars game. But this doesn't actually return the correct value, so we're going to make this work ourselves. So if we are playing the same game, that doesn't actually mean that we are hosting a game. So we need to make sure this player is actually hosting a game. And we can check that by dragging off the unique net ID over here. And then we're gonna get find the friend session. So find friend session. Click it over here. So we're gonna hook this one up to the true pin. The player controller we need to hook up here is our own player controller, so we can simply get the owning player of this widget. And then if we don't find a session, then obviously we can join. So we're going to grab our can join boolean. For on failure, let's hook it up and set it to false. And then we're going to grab the false pin over here from the is playing same game branch and hook it up over here as well. There we go. And if we actually have a success, then we're going to grab another branch, hook it up. So we're going to make sure that the session info is not empty. So is not empty. And we also want to make sure it's a valid session. So let's drag off here again and get a copy. So you should only be able to have 1 session at a time. So if we simply grab index 0, that should work. And then drag off here and get the is valid session node. So we can grab an end node over here, hook everything up, and that's our condition. So if this returns true, then we can actually join. So we're going to grab our can join boolean. If it's true, plug it in here and set it to true. And if this is false, then again, we want to set can join to false. So we can go to the lower branch over here, like so. Let's clean this up a little bit. There we go. So after that, all we need to do is decide if we want to hide or show the text. So we can grab our text joinable over here and then set the visibility. So if we can join, it's going to be visible, and otherwise it's going to be hidden. And hook up the target over here. So that should be the graph for now. So let's compile and save. We need to go back in a little bit later, but right now we can't add that variable yet. So let's close it down, and now we want to take a look at setting up the actual friends list widget. So for the actual friends list, we need a second widget, and I'm simply going to grab the pause menu and duplicate that one so we have the title bar and a few buttons to start with. So this is going to be the widget blueprint Steam Friends, and create it. Now before we go in there and set everything up, let's open up our Steam Friend button again, go back to the graph. And in here, we want to add a variable that's our friends list. So our widget blueprint Steam Friends. And change the variable type to the widget blueprint Steam Friends. Over here, and make sure we set it to instance editable and exposed on spawn as well. Compile this and save it so we can't forget that anymore. And then let's open our new Steam Friends widget. So first of all, let's change the header in here. Instead of paused, I'm going to say friends. There we go. And we have 3 buttons in here, so that's actually good to go, but we want to change the names. So the first one is going to be the button to send invites. So let's call this button invite. And change the text in here, so send invite. And the second button is going to be for joining, so let's call this button join. And change the text as well, so join game. And the third button is simply to go back out of the menu, so let's call this button back. And then over here, change the text as well. So I have a spacer or 2 in here. Let's get rid of this spacer and maybe increase the size of this one a little bit. So there we go. With that in place, we want to grab a border and add a scroll box in there so we can add our friend buttons to that scroll box. So we're going to grab a border and simply drop it on top of the canvas panel. The border doesn't need to be a variable, so that's good to go. Let's set up the anchors. So I'm going to anchor it to the center of the screen and then set the positions to 0 and 75. And I got the size set to 550 by 700. And then grab the alignment and set it to 0.5, so it's actually centered. For the color, we can grab our default color from the borders over here, so that's actually simply 0.5 for the alpha. And then that should be good to go. Yeah, that should be good. So inside of this border, we're going to grab the scroll box that I mentioned. So grab a scroll box, drop it on top of the border. And this is our scroll box friends. So let's rename it first. And the scroll box actually needs to fill the widget, so that's good to go. Set to fill over here. Let me see, do we need to set anything else in here? I don't think so. So then all we have left is a little pop-up I want to make if we click join, and that's going to take a little bit for the game to actually join, so to prevent the player from pressing all kinds of buttons and not sure if something is happening. We're going to create a little pop-up that pops up. So we are simply going to grab ourselves another border in here and drop it on top of the canvas panel. So this border, we want to align it as well. So let's set the anchor to center, and then I'm going to grab the position 0 minus 150. And the size is going to be 400 by 95. And again, put the alignments to 0.5. Then for the brush color, we're gonna make it our default brush color from the project, so 0.5. And we need to make this a variable. So this is going to be the border join in progress. And enable is variable at the top right. And inside of this border, we're going to grab a vertical box. So let's go over here, vert box, drop it on top of the border. And then I'm going to grab a second border, drop it inside of the vert box. And on top of that, we want to grab some text. So I'm simply going to grab the text over here for the join game, for example, copy and paste it inside of this border. So this border needs to be a little bit darker, otherwise we can't see anything. So let's grab the brush color over here. Let's make it our default border color. So that should be something like this, 000 and then alpha 0.7. So this is going to say joining game. So let's grab the text over here and add joining. And then I'm gonna grab this border and duplicate it. So there's a second one in here. And for this one, I'm gonna grab the text and actually make it a variable. So this is going to be the text join in progress. On the top right, enable is variable. And then I'm gonna change the text to something like please wait. But because it's a variable, we can also change the text in here to say joining failed if something went wrong or something like that. So now this isn't really properly aligned. So what we could do is grab this border over here and also this one and add a little bit of padding. So let's say 2 on the top and maybe 2 on the bottom. And that looks a little bit better. So this should be the friends list widget. So we can compile and save this part and now actually start setting up the graph. So if we go to the graph, all of the stuff from the pause menu is still in here. So let's just delete all of that because that's only going to cause errors. And we simply want to build this from the ground up and we're going to start with our event construct. So right click, look for event construct. And the first thing we want to do is make sure that our pop-up for joining in progress is not visible. So let's grab our border join in progress. Yes, I actually named it pop-up in my other project, so I got a little bit confused. Border join in progress, drag it in here and we're going to set the visibility. So this is going to be hidden every time we open the widget, so make sure it's not visible. Then we want to grab the button back, button invite and the scroll box friends and make sure those are enabled. So button back, button invite and scroll box friends. And the scroll box is not a variable. So if we go over here, scroll box friends, I need to enable is variable over here. I forgot. Then go back to the graph and drag it in here as well. There we go. So for these three, we want to make sure we re-enable them. So this might be the second time we open the widget, for example. So that's why we want to reset everything. So drag it in here, plug everything in, and make sure they are enabled. After that, we're going to grab the text for the join in progress and also reset that to the default text. So first we're going to set the color and opacity. And make it our default white color. So drag off here, make a slate color, and then simply make it white. There we go. And we want to set the text. So drag over here again and set the text. Oh, not the tooltip text, but the actual text. So set text for this node. And we want to set it back to please wait. Okay, so that's good to go. And then we want to take a look at the scroll box for the friends and make sure it's empty. So let's clear all the children. So we're starting fresh. And we also want an array with all of the friends buttons, so we can actually keep track of all of the buttons and make some changes to them if we need to. So we're gonna create a variable, and this is going to be all friend buttons. So we need to turn this into our Steam friend button, and then turn it into an array. So we can grab that array over here and clear it. Like so. So let's set up a few variables as well, otherwise we're going to keep going back and forward. So we need a selected button index. So we simply know what button we have selected. So that's a single variable and then an integer. And then we need two booleans. We are going to be able to open the friends list from the lobby and from the multiplayer menu. So we're going to create two bools, from lobby and from MP menu. And the last thing we need in here is our selected friends info. So let's call this selected friend info. And this is actually the BP friend info structure. Like so. And these variables don't need to be exposed on spawn or anything, so that's good to go. Over here we can grab the selected button index and also reset that one. So we're gonna set it to -1 if we don't have anything selected. Now we can start setting up the friends list. So if we right click, we can get and store a friends list. So get and store friends list over here. Plug it in. For the player controller, we need our own player controller, so we can simply get the owning player of the widget, plug it in here, and then let me see. Yeah, I have a function in my other project that sorts the friends by online status, so all of the online friends are at the top. Well, let's make that as well. So we're simply going to create a simple function. I'm not going to sort them by alphabet or anything like that. I'm just going to make sure that everybody that's online is at the top of the list, and that's all for now. You can expand that function and make it look cleaner if you want to. For now, why is there an on key down? Oh, because this was the pause menu, so we can get rid of the on key down event. We don't need that. And we're going to create a new function, and let's call this sort friends array. And we actually need the friends array as an input. So we're going to grab an input in here and call this friends. And that's an array of our BP friend info structures. So BP friend info, and make sure it's an array. And we also want to output the same array, but then it's ordered. So let's call this sorted friends. And again, that's an array of BP friend info structures, so that's fine. Now we are going to grab a for each loop, plug it in here, and loop through all of the friends. So we can break the friend info structure over here. And then we are going to switch on the online state. So drag of the online state and look for switch. And what I'm gonna do in here is pretty simple. So if the player is online, away, or extended away, so one of these three, I'm gonna insert it at the beginning of the array. So we're gonna grab our we need a local variable. Yeah, let's use a local variable in here. So let's create a local variable, and that's our local friends. And that's actually an array of BP friend info structures. So if we want to add a friend to the top of the list, we can drag off here and do insert. And then insert it at index 0. So this will move over all of the other indexes that are already present and move those down. So we can grab the array element, plug it in here, and I'm going to do that for online and for away and extended away. And then if we are offline or don't disturb our chat, I'm simply going to use an add node, and that will make it to the end of the array. So add, and then hook up offline and the other ones, and again hook up the array element. So as I mentioned, a really simple sorting function. It's going to be a bit more complicated very quickly if you want to expand this. So for now, we're just going to keep it like this, and then we're going to return our local friend array. There we go. So go back to the event graph and call this sort friend array on success. Plug it in over here, plug in the results. And after that, we can start looping through them to create the buttons. So we want to grab a for each loop, plug it in, and we're going to create a widget for each of the friends. So create widget. And we want to create our Steam friend widget button over here. So for the owning player, that's our own player controller. So we can simply get the owning player, plug it in over here. The friend info is the array element, the button index also is the array index, and our Steam Friends widget is a reference to ourself. So simply look for self. And then we want to add those to the scroll box and make sure that we store them in our all buttons array. So first of all, let's grab the scroll box friends and we're going to add a child. Plug it in and plug in the return value. And then for the return value, we also want to add it to our all friend buttons array. So let's drag that in as well and then add an item. And again, plug in the return value. So now we have all of the buttons in the scroll box and stored in the array. So that's good to go. Then we want to go to the completed pin of the for each loop and we're going to grab a branch, plug it in here. So first we're going to check if we opened the widget from the lobby, and if we did, we are going to grab our button invite and we want to set this to visible. So we are in the lobby, so we can actually invite players because we have a session already going. So we can hook that up to the through pin, and then we want to grab a second branch, plug it in here. And although this should pretty much be true if this one is false, let's just check it. So if we opened it from the MP menu, we're going to set the button invite to collapsed. So we're not actually inside of a lobby yet, so we don't have a session, so we cannot invite people. So let's set visibility and set it to collapsed. Plug this one in the through pin, and that should be good to go. So that's our event construct. So we have a few more things to set up over here. So let's do that first. We have our button back. So let's make an on-clicked event for that if we want to exit the friends menu. And again, we want to know if this is done from the lobby or from the MP menu. So I'm simply going to grab these two branches and paste them over here. Plug it in. So if we open it from the lobby, we can actually go to our menu controller and we have a reference to our lobby widget in the menu controller, and we can simply set it back to visible. So I'm not going to destroy the widgets and recreate them. I'm simply going to hide them and show them again. So what we want to do for the from lobby pin is get our owning player. And that's actually our menu controller if we are in the lobby. So we can cast it to our menu controller, plug it into the through pin. And as I mentioned on there, we have a reference to our lobby menu. So we can get our widget blueprint lobby menu and simply set the visibility. So set the visibility and set it back to visible. So plug it in here. Make sure it's visible, and after that we can remove the friends list. So we can simply say remove from parent, and we want to remove ourselves. So that's good to go. And if we actually open this from the multiplayer menu, then we want to go to the game instance, because at that point we are not online yet, and we are not using the menu controller to create the widgets, but we're using the game instance. So we can get the game instance, and we want to cast it to our shooter game instance. So this goes into TruePin. And on there we have a reference to the multiplayer menu, so we can get our MP menu, the widget, and again we can simply set that to visible. Nope. So set the visibility, plug it in over here and make sure it's visible, and after that we want to remove the friends list. So we can grab remove from parent ourselves. Okay, so that's the back button done, and then we obviously have the join and invite buttons left. So let's go to the join button over here and add on clicked. And what we want to do first is grab our border join in progress and start showing that. So we're going to set the visibility and make sure that it's visible. Then we want to make sure we disable the rest of the buttons so the player can't mess anything up. So we're going to grab our button invite, button join, and the scroll box for the friends, because that contains all of the friend list buttons. So if we simply disable the scroll box, that'll disable all the buttons inside of there as well. And let's also grab the button back. So we have 4 things in here, and we're going to set enabled and make sure all 4 of them are disabled. So disable it over here, plug all 4 of them in, and that's good to go. So we want to make sure that the text for the joining in progress is actually showing the correct text. So if we go back to the event construct, we can grab this little part over here. For the text join in progress, make the text white and say please wait. So I'm going to copy this, go back here and paste it. There we go. And then we want to know if we actually did this from the lobby or not, because if we are in the lobby and we're joining a friend, then we are currently running our own session, so we need to destroy that session first, otherwise that's not going to work. So we need to grab a branch in here and grab our from lobby boolean. And if this is true, we're going to get our only player, so that's the player controller. And we simply want to destroy the session. I think if I drag off here, we probably get the context. Yeah, we get the world context object, so we don't want to do that. We simply want to right click and then look for destroy session. Nope. So we get this node with only the player controller, hook it up to the owning player. If this is true, we're going to destroy our current session. And then on success, we want to find our friend session. So we need to get the friend info unique friend ID. And we can actually grab that from the selected friend info. So grab your selected friend info. Let's break it over here. And from here we can get the unique net ID from the friend that we want to join. So if we drag off here, we want to find the friend session. So this is going to be on the onSuccess pin. For the player controller, we need to hook up our own player controller, so we can simply get our own player. And we also want to grab the false branch over here. So if we are not opening this from the lobby, but from the multiplayer menu, we don't need to destroy a session. We can simply start looking for the friend session immediately. So we're going to skip the destroy node. Let's move this up here. So there we go. So if we are looking for a friend session and we have actually found one, then we can start joining it. So let's do on success first, grab a branch. So make sure this is not empty. So the search might have not failed, but maybe the array is empty. So let's make sure. So it's not empty. And again, make sure it's a valid session. So we want to get a copy and check if this is a valid. So we can grab an end node and use this as our condition over here. plug it in. So if this is true, we can actually start joining, and we can do that through the game instance. So if we get our game instance and cast it to our shooter game instance, then we can use our existing join MP game event. So we can drag off the game instance and look for join MP session over here, and the session result is actually the result that comes from the get node over here. So that's index 0 from the array of the find friend session node. And to be honest, if we look at the join MP session function, you can also simply use join session in the widget. The only thing this does is make sure that we have the solo game bool set correctly, and everything is matching up with the rest of the project. So this is just a little bit for completion's sake. You can also say simply join session in here. That should work as well. So that's joining, and then we want to make sure that if we fail, that we are not locked in the menu because we disabled all of the buttons and stuff like that. So if we gonna go to on failure over here, then we want to reset some stuff. And I'm also gonna add 2 prints in here. So I'm gonna copy and paste those. So if this fails, I'm simply gonna say find friend session failed. And if my destroyed session failed, I'm also gonna make sure that I have a print that I know what's happening. So destroy session failed. And then over here, we want to go to our text join in progress and change some stuff in here. So if we go over here, grab the text join in progress, copy this stuff, go back down here, and we're going to hook up both of these. So in this case, I'm going to make the text red. So let's change the color in here, make it red. And then I'm going to say failed. And simply wait 2 or 3 seconds and then re-enable everything. So let's add a delay in here. Let's make it 3 seconds. And then I'm gonna grab the border join in progress and make sure that it's hidden. So set visibility, plug it in here and hide it again. And after that, we want to re-enable all of the buttons so the player is not stuck in the menu. So we can go over here where we disabled all 4 of them and simply go to the end and re-enable them. There we go. And so that's joining a friend. So that was actually the biggest one. And for the inviting, that's pretty simple. So we can grab our button invite and actually add an on-clicked event as well. So we're going to grab our selected friend info. So that's the friend that we want to invite to our game. We can break it. And then again, grab the unique net ID. And we can simply send a session invite to friend. So session invite to friend. That's just a node. Plug it in here. So the player controller is our own player controller again, so we can get the owning player and hook that up. And that's really all we need to do. So I'm simply going to add 2 prints in here so I know what's happening. So over here on success, I'm going to say invite sent and make it green. And on failure, invite failed and make it red. Okay, that should be all for this widget. So let's compile and save it, and let's see what we have left to do. So it's starting to become a pretty long video already, but we are getting close. So I think we're just gonna plow through it and get this out of the way. So inside of the widget blueprint Steam Friends, we want to create one more function, and then we're done in here. So this function, I'm going to say highlight selected button. And we want to give this function one input, and that's the button index of the button that we want to highlight. So the button that we have selected. So that's going to be an integer and then a single variable. And it doesn't need any return value, so that's good to go. So this is the index of the button that we clicked that we want to highlight. But first we want to make sure that if we already have a button highlighted, that we're going to reset that one. So we're going to grab a branch and we're going to check our current selected button index. So make sure that this is greater than or equal to 0. So if it's -1, we don't have anything selected, otherwise we do. So if that's true, then we can grab our all friend buttons and get a copy. And we can get the copy from the selected button index. And then simply set the background color of this button. So we can drag over here and get the border background. And for the border, we can set the brush color. So set brush color. And if we don't have it selected anymore, we can simply make it invisible. So we're going to simply set the alpha to 0. And that's good to go. Then we want to update our selected button index to the new button index of the new button that we pressed. So we're going to grab a setter, plug it into the false pin and into this execution pin as well. And we're going to set the button index to the new button index that we pressed. And we want to highlight that button, so we can set the brush color again by doing the same part over here. Copy it and paste it. Plug it in over here. And in this case, we want to make it green, so we know what friend we have selected. So if we make it green and make sure we put the alpha back to 1. Oh, okay. So put it back to 1 and then make it green. There we go. So that should highlight the button and then we can return. That's good to go. So this should be the friends list widget. Let's compile and save. And now we need 2 buttons inside of the lobby menu and the multiplayer menu. So we can open up our new friends list. So, well, let's just start with the lobby menu. Why not? Widget blueprint lobby menu over here. So it's starting to get a little bit full. So I'm simply going to add the friends button over here inside of the border for the title. So let me grab one of these buttons, that doesn't really matter, button main menu, and I'm going to grab the canvas panel and paste it on there. So let's move it in place a little bit. Then for the button, I'm going to say size to content. And we want to change it obviously to the button for the friends list. So let's rename it button friends list. And the text is going to be friends. There we go. So we need to do a little bit of setup for this button in the graph, but that's not really too bad. So we want to go to event construct at the beginning. So let's make sure we are in the event graph. And let's just go all the way to the beginning. That doesn't really matter. We want to make sure that we set the visibility for the actual entire lobby menu to visible. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to destroy and recreate the lobby menu widget. I'm going to hide and show it. And to make sure that if we somehow manage to leave it hidden and then get back into it, we want to make sure that it's visible again. So we can simply drag off here and then set the visibility. Don't plug anything in, so the target is the entire widget, and make sure that it's visible. Then we want to go to the right a little bit and check our solo game branch. Oop. What happened there? Why am I inside of this function? Okay, that was a bit weird. We want to go to the is solo game branch, so still inside of the event construct. And related to if this is a solo game, we want to hide or show the friends button, so we can grab our newly created button. So that's button friends list over here. Drag it in. So if this is a solo game, we're gonna set it to collapsed. So set visibility. Move over this pin, plug it in over here and set it to collapsed. And then if we are not in a solo game, then we want to make sure it's visible. So again, grab a set visibility node, move over the pins, set it to visible and make sure you plug in the target. So that'll make sure the button is visible at the correct moments. And then all we need in here is an on-clicked event. So we're going to grab an on-clicked event for the friends list button. And what we want to do in here is create the Steam Friends widget. So first of all, create a widget. And this is going to be our widget blueprint Steam Friends. Like so. Owning player is our owning player controller. So simply get owning player. And now before we add it to the viewport, we want to set the correct bools for from MP menu or from lobby menu. So let's drag off here. And we're going to set from lobby menu. Plug it in. So in this case, we are in the lobby menu. So we're going to enable this one and make sure that the other one is disabled. So set from MP menu and make sure this is false. Plug it in. And after we set those, we can add it to the viewport because then our event construct will fire. So then the bools are set correctly. So we can say add to viewport. And we want to add the return value to the viewport. So we're not going to store any reference to this widget, that's fine. And we simply want to hide our lobby menu after we added the friends menu to the viewport. So now we can set the visibility and simply set the visibility of self, the lobby menu, to hidden. So that's good to go as well. Compile and save. And we want to do something similar in the multiplayer menu. So let's open up our widget blueprint multiplayer menu. And I'm going to grab the correct one in my notes quickly as well to make sure I don't make any mistakes. Bear with me for a sec. Okay, so for the friends button, I'm simply going to add it in the list over here. So let's grab the button search game and I'm going to duplicate it. So this is going to be button friends list. And the text is going to be friends. So this does not need to be a variable, so we can disable that one. And that should be good. So we want to go to the graph. And again, in here, we need to make sure that the actual multiplayer menu is visible if we opened it for the same reason as I mentioned in the lobby menu. So for event construct, the first thing we're going to do is set the visibility of the entire widget and make sure it's visible. And then we can set up the on-clicked event for the button. Let me double check over here. Yes. So we want to grab an on-clicked event for the button friends list. And we're actually going to do the same thing as we did in the lobby menu. So we're going to create a widget. And that's going to be our Steam Friends widget. There we go. Owning player is our owning player controller. So we can hook that up. And again, we want to set the bools before we add it to the viewport. So set from lobby menu. So in this case, the lobby menu is false. And we're going to set from MP menu. And that's true. Plug both of them in. Then we can add the return value to the viewport. So add to viewport. And plug it in. And after that, we can hide the multiplayer menu. So it's ready to unhide if we close the friends menu. So drag off here and no, not remove from parent, but set visibility. Target is self and the visibility is hidden. So that should be good as well. Let's compile and save this one. Oh, I actually docked it, so it's good I didn't close it. Okay. Okay, so let me check what's left to do and I'll be back. So we're actually really close now. We want to open our Steam Friend button widget because we need to add an on-clicked event for our Steam Friend button. So in here, we want to go to the button friend and grab an on-clicked event. And what we want to do in here is grab our Steam Friend reference widget. So that's the friends list. And on here, we want to set the selected friends info. So set selected friends info. And we're going to set it to the friend info stored on this button. So we can grab it over here and plug it in. And then we want to make sure that we set the join text correctly. So we can grab the Steam friends over here and we want to get the button join. So we only want to enable the join button if we can actually join the player. So we can set enabled for the button. And then simply hook up our can join boolean over here. So grab can join and plug it in over here. And then the last thing we want to do is highlight the correct button. So we want to drag off the friends list again and then highlight selected button, plug it in here and make sure we grab the button index and hook it up as well. There we go. So that should take care of pretty much everything. There is one thing left to do inside of the framework folder. We want to open up our shooter game instance, and with the advanced session plugin there's actually a new version of the game instance that will make sure that you can accept invites. So what we want to do is actually reparent the game instance. So let's make sure that we have everything saved in case of a horrible crash. Open up our game instance and we want to go to the class settings, and then for the parent class over here we want to change it to the advanced friends game instance. So simply select that one. So this is derived from the normal game instance, so this shouldn't break anything if you actually had the normal game instance class as a previous parent. So if you were using a custom class, you might run into a little bit of an issue right now. So with that in place, we can actually look for an event that will fire if we get an invite. So let me grab my notes quickly. It's actually really simple, but I don't want to mess up. So that's the event on session invite accepted. So if we go to the event graph, right click, and we can look for invite, and those will probably pop up. So we have on session invite accepted and on session invite received. So we don't really need received, but you can use it to create an in-game widget, for example, if you get an invite or something like that. For now, we're going to simply use accepted. And all we really need to do in here is grab the session to join and simply join that. So we can call our join MP session. Nope. And we need to plug in a session result, and that's the session to join. So that's really all we need to do. We probably might want to add a print or some kind of pop-up so we know what's happening. So I'm going to add a print in here, joining session, please be patient. So that should be all. Let's compile and save. I'm going to package the project, copy it to my other PC, and then I'm going to try and make sure everything is working, and I'll be back to show you. So I have the game running on both of my PCs, and my other PC is actually hosting a session right now. So I can go to the multiplayer section over here, and then for example go to my friends list. So over here the friends list is pretty lonely. This is a account I created just for testing, so I only have myself in here. Messed up the text, so we need to grab the joinable text and make sure we fix that, but otherwise we should be good to go, hopefully. So I can click the profile over here and then I should be able to join game. So I'm clicking, the pop-up will appear, and there we go, we're actually in the session. So joining a game works. What I could also do is go back to the main menu, and then I'm going to send an invite from the other PC. So you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing, but I'm going to invite my GameDev Raw account. So let's go here, send invite. And as you can see, I have a pop-up over here to actually accept the invite. So let's go to Steam, and then we can accept this. You need to make sure that the actual game is open if you want to accept the invite, and again that's because we're running with the Spacewar app ID, and if you want to get all of the other stuff working so it actually automatically launches the game and things like that, you need to actually set up the Steam SDK a bit further, but for that you need the actual app ID, and that'll cost you $100. So if I click this, and it should actually join the game now, and it does. So I can get rid of the Steam overlay, and as you can see, I just accepted my invite and I'm good to go. Now what I could do as well is do it the other way around. So I'm going to go back to the main menu, and I'm also going to close the session on the other PC so you can see how it looks. So now we can go to multiplayer over here, make sure we are online, and then host a game. So this is going to be the GDR game, for example, and accept it. So now we can go to our friends list over here, select a friend and send an invite. So the other PC will have the pop-up going on. And let me join it from the other side to make sure that's working. So I'm actually joining right now. And there we go, both players are in the game. So we set up our friends list and we are actually able to join and invite people. So that's pretty cool. That's all I got for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like. That helps out the channel tremendously. And I'll be back soon for more. Talk to you later, guys. Bye bye.